So, we're going to take a look over the Silver Oak's AoK resin conversion kit for the Master Grade EXS Gundam. To start off with, Silver Oaks is a pretty well-known brand when it comes to the resin kits. They have an extensive line from what I've seen of mostly of the big boys. Of the big two I've seen is the High Noon and, regular New Gundam. It really caught my attention, the details of like how the kit was reshaped from their images, that they show you to get you to buy the kit. And it's really impressive. I was over the moon about it, and it was amazing. Silver Oaks is a pretty well-known brand. As you know, they have a paint line as well. They're pretty much up there in the tiers of like Yaoju, YJL, Fortune Meow, and SH Studio, but that's a whole other topic that I'd rather not discuss about because I have a severe disliking to SH Studios, at least their 1/100 grade. I've seen their perfect grades in 160s, and they seem to be pretty sturdy since, it's not really those aren't really meant to be, moved and posed with and all that. But I digress. The Silver Oaks version of this one, I would have to say this is the first one I've ever built by Silver Oaks. Most of my brands I stick to is Model Bingo and other such brands from China or Korea, if I'm correct. But this Silver Oaks one, to really break it down, it is a challenge. It is a challenge. This is the first one where I felt that I was like, I gotta find a forum. I gotta find somebody who's already built this thing to give me some pointers on how to figure this out. But unfortunately, there are very few people who I've seen, building a resin kit version of this kit. I mean, the kit alone itself from Bandai is a beauty, It's really well constructed and, very articulate, and the fact that it can pull a Robotech and right in front of you is just top tier 10 for me. But I'm a resin head and I really like to do that. So unfortunately, I had to take the dive and just tear this poor thing down and, hopefully create something even more, stunning to look at, to say the least. So to get started, I want to talk about, just each individual part so that you can get an idea, just in case if you decide you want to pick this kit up and challenge yourself. For the head gets completely replaced for the most part. I think the only thing that really stays with the head is the small yellow V fin and the red. I never remember what part this is. I gotta read damn manga or something so I can learn these things or find some history about it. But the little part that goes on, that's usually like an antenna, I guess. But those are really the only original parts, and the clear parts for the eyes. And afterwards, it's just all resin. It's crazy how it's almost just a complete resin head kit. To say the least, it comes in about a 5, 6, 10 piece, and you use one original part, which is the G19, I believe. And it's the part that goes with the actual, not the EX version, but just a regular S version. So you end up using that as your inner frame that connects the top red piece to the rest of the head, along with the clear eyes that you're gonna also have to cut down to size so that way it fits. But you'll end up gluing that to the front face, if you get done doing painting or however you choose to do that part. I can already tell that I'm gonna have to do some polyester puttying on it because the alignment is completely off. There's a back piece for the venting, I guess, and it is just not even. Just completely off. You wouldn't be able to see it in the video because I, didn't want y'all to see just how ugly this thing is right now. But, you catch the drift from most of the image of it. Going on from there, we move on to the chest and the waist part, which is, kind of had me guessing. As you can see in one of the pictures, it shows it complete, and you can still see certain parts from the original kit there, but you don't know how much of the core fighter is still being used. Because you don't know if you still need the nose fin. There's no good indication of it. I got lucky enough and found this Filipino website where there's this guy who just sells kits. But he at least had decent pictures of the waistline to see what and how things are connected. You're gonna have to do a little bit of burring into it and gluing, and however to get it to fit, because as you know, on the waist part, when you put that extension of the waist on, it connects to the base stand itself to give it that that evenness when it's sitting up, properly. Unfortunately, mine's had a little bit of a front lean, as you can see in the video from previously of how it was looking. Wasn't meant to be intentional to make it look like some kind of dynamic pose. It was just because I don't know how to connect the damn part to it. But eventually I'm going to get that figured out. So that's another issue to deal with when we get there. The frame itself with the core, you're really only using like the front part of the pilot, and make sure you use the nose as well that bends over into the front of it. And the waist itself, you still require the screw so that way it gets held into place. As for the general area for the cockpit, you put the extra armor cover layer over, and it snaps in pretty well, so I'll give it that. There's also an extra part from the original kit that connects the top armor frame to the upper part of the chest, which is very nice and, sturdy. As for the most part, the inner frame of the kit is still being used, the neck, the general parts that connect, but then there comes the back piece, which I will say the two parts of the back piece, there's the outer armor and then the inner frame of the part that connects. Now, the thing with this part, with the original, it was scary when you got to retake it apart because it's not like a traditional, male end connected to a female end with it. It's like a rectangle peg that goes along with it. So be careful when pulling it off because this resin is not that thick. It's pretty brittle and it will snap. Trust me, the glue is out on that table for a reason. When you saw it in the video, that's because you need that damn thing. Overall, I feel like it's too thin. It's too thin. It needed to be a little bit thicker to hold the strength whenever you're disassembling it. So you can't be too rough with it, even if resin is supposed to be more sturdier. But it all depends on the one that you got cast. Okay, so be careful, I would say. And from there, we're gonna move on to the arms and talk about that for just a second. The arms were super nice. I like these arms. They got these gimmicks of pistons on the front and the back of it. The resin hands are very nice. I like how they look. You can see some great details. So if you get into hand brushing, you can really get in there and show like different colors of the joints compared to how, most people would probably color some kind of metallic gunmetal or something like that, one or another. I will say you should probably take the super glue method and put a little bit of glue on that ball joint because it is really loose and it's going to fall off. Or if you got yourself a pack of gun primers, like little joint strip test tapes, you can use that. Overall, the arms, super nice. The only complaint I would say is the shoulder and the bicep joint that connects it. It's loose, so you're gonna have to, put some more tape or joints on that to keep it pretty sturdy. Because the original, ABS parts or the poly caps, what you would call it, that go in there, they're a little loose for the fitting from the resin, I guess. But that's just because of the problems with casting that comes along with it. But arms, beautiful. No problem with it. No extra work doing to it. It's straightforward. You take a couple of parts from the original kit and bam, you got yourself some arms. Moving on to the shoulders, the upper part, which I would feel is like the thing that everybody knows when they see this kit. As you know, the top part of the plates on the original of the Bandai, they slide back and forth. It creates that little opening thing that, looks really cool, especially when you lay your water decals on it and it's got that little offset to how it looks on there. And I just love that. This one, it's kind of built to be offset from what it seems like. I can't really say for certain how right now because those things have fitting issues to where they don't even go on. The shoulders themselves also, as I like to mention, are pretty much all resin. There's a few parts and you gotta cut, as you saw in the video that I had to do. And then overall, it's pure resin. It's nice to see that when it comes to a conversion kit, because at this point you would think it's a dress-up kit. No, this is a conversion kit. There's barely anything left from the EXS, to say the least. The shoulders will give you some problems, especially the inner frame, as they don't connect as well as the original kit. Along with the screws, it doesn't hold in place, so it kind of sits very loosely. So don't intend to mess around with it too much. Get the pose or angle that you need for it and just leave it be. And that's the part that I have to say about that. The extra, I guess, wings on top, it's very loose. The resin is just, bad fitting overall. You really just glue it all down. That's all it's going to be. It's going to be glued down. Just glue it down and move on and, live with that. As for the next part is the legs. Now, the legs were probably the most funnest part to build, because for me, the legs are either going to be fun or it's going to be hell of a challenge to do. I would say at the beginning, they did a lot of reworking that I feel like it didn't need to be done, because you have to cut off the joint that connects to the waist and put on a resin part. Now, in the book, they don't show you that you have to really cut it off unless you pay attention and see that. But it's crazy to think that you would go through that trouble to replace it for the legs. But it also does that because the kit actually becomes a little bit taller when you do this, because the legs got a little bit more height to it from the original one, and you can just tell the difference by that when you get to building it. The inner parts of the thighs are actually incredible. They actually replaced everything with the exception of polycaps and what have you, and made everything resin, which is also the double-edged sword part of it. Everything's resin. So fitment and what have you is gonna be different, unfortunately. So that's just one problem that you got to deal with, and hopefully move on from it and you do good. But like I said, glue. It's gonna be a lot of glue. And a lot of gap fitment issues, because I feel like some of these resin kits, they intentionally leave these gaps in between to where it's like you can tell this is an outer armor part on top of something, because it has like this gap that you think you would see into the inner frame, but it just doesn't look right, and I'm gonna have to fix it. And it's gonna be one of those things where we gotta bust out any putty and whatever you got around and hopefully get it to be squared away. As for the rest, the inner frame is pretty much the same. You got to do some cutting around the ankle bits and parts as well. And then, like I said, the book doesn't really tell you, but you got to cut the lower part just a little bit off of the edge in the front. And because I was having fitment issues when I was putting on the outer armor of the legs, which is also another issue. The frame, the armor for the outside of the legs just will not work. Even though they have their male and female ends to connect to parts, it's uneven. Took a heat gun to it, they just do not stick. So I plan on cutting and drilling and putting either some magnets or just gluing it straight down and being done with it as well. But overall, I like the aesthetics and how it looks. It's just going to take some time to get everything aligned and put into place. Moving on to those Air Force kick games that this thing has. The feet is also, they look okay. The feet are okay. The only thing really left of the feet is, I believe only the bottom of the feet. The bottom of the feet and the inner part that connects the heel to the foot, and like the top little white piece that goes on top of it. But everything else is straight resin. So, this is definitely a conversion kit to say it. That thing is just glue city anyways. There's no work around it. There's no proper way to fit parts. So you're going to be cutting once again. Get yourself a heat gun or boil some water so that way you can loosen up the parts. That way you can mess the original part of the underfoot in, and I was able to get it, and it looks even and everything, but it's still very finicky. I would not recommend standing this thing up unless you are very confident in your building. From there, we're going to move on and talk about the backpack, which is literally nothing. They didn't do anything. It's just like the veneers, the thrusters, or what have you. They look amazing. They look great. You'll notice that on top part, there's like a long peg as if it's trying to attach something to the back of the thrusters, but there's nothing to attach. Now, you can go about two ways with this. You can either drill a hole so you can get a tight fitment onto it, or you can snap it, and then, when you get to that part, you can glue it on to the base, because that's pretty much what you're going to end up doing. You're going to have to glue the thrusters onto the backpack. So just be prepared for that, and make sure you got, everything in order with that. Moving on from there, we want to talk about the weapon. The gun is probably the selling point to this whole kit. Like that barrel. Oh, like when you look at the original, it's like a cylinder, like a regular, like a rail gun type of situation. And then it's got these like an outer guard going across it. But this one, it's just solid. You're looking at something like you swear you saw Akira for the first time. You're seeing this type of gun. I like it. That is probably the best design gun I have ever seen in a resin kit so far that I have built. I'm infatuated with it, and you will be too once you build it. Other than that, overall, that should be about it, really. I mean, it comes with a free little head bus, but we're not too concerned with that. Just a little freebie for no reason, I guess, but I guess thanks, which is nice. But that's pretty much the gist of this kit. It is definitely, overall, from my view, not beginner friendly whatsoever. If I wanted to give you a beginner kit, if you're diving headfirst into 1/100 grades, I would say, unfortunately, go get the SH Studio and get yourself a master grade Barbatos. That 1/100 grade one is pretty solid for the most part. Little fitment issues here and there, but it teaches you to prepare for something like this on this scale, and it's also, working on this kit is also pretty well for me because I get a chance to practice for when I finally get my hands on the Sotheby's kit by Yaojulan, and hopefully that'll go better because I feel like YGL is pretty good when it comes to their resin stuff. But overall, if you feel like you want to put up with this pain and can handle when mistakes and parts start snapping off and flying everywhere and you have no idea, this is for you. This is a challenge for you, and it's a challenge for me, and I can't wait to get done with it so I can put it on my shelf and move on from these memories. But we're going to be drawing this video to a close. We'll start working on the head soon this weekend and getting some painting done. Well, hopefully get some painting done. You still got to let this stuff sit in some purple power and, sit overnight to remove any of that release mold agent that they put onto it when casting. So I'll probably be getting started Monday of next week with painting and start releasing, part videos out for you guys for each part. That way you're not sitting there watching these long drawn out videos as this one right now, as I'm seeing I'm 17 minutes in. Jesus Christ, man. I hope y'all enjoy watching this because I'm a dumbass for letting this video go on this long. Anyways, I appreciate y'all coming through and sticking with me on this journey. And I can't wait to show you more and how it turns out. We'll talk probably later once we start getting things fixed and set up. And I'll probably do another review video or a talking point about the paint and the scheme. But I appreciate y'all coming through. Thanks for coming around, and I'll see you later.